Minecraft Hardcore, Season 3, Day 1. I started the day by loading into the world and checking out my surroundings. I made my way over to a tree, chopped it down, and headed over to a cliff edge to craft a wood pickaxe and gather some stone for tools. Once they were crafted, I began the journey of looking for a good base location. I took out some sheep for food and wool before heading past the plains and into the cold biomes, only stopping once my hunger prevented me from sprinting. I set up an area to cook my food, and once I was full, I continued the search, checking the mountainsides to mine all the exposed iron I could find. It was getting dark shortly after, and I got ambushed by mobs. I managed to get myself to safety, started smelting the iron, and crafted myself a shield, sword, and bucket before continuing the search. I fought with a spider to take out my first hostile mob, and continued onwards, where a creeper snuck up on me and tried to end the series early. Soon after, the sun started to rise, marking the end of Day 1. Day 2. I started the day by taking out a group of cows and continuing my search for a base location. I've always believed that it's worth searching for the perfect spot, because ultimately you're going to be spending a lot of time in that area. I managed to gather a good amount of iron from a side cave that I found and set up a spot to smelt all my iron and food. I made myself a pickaxe and full iron armor before continuing on my search, taking out more cows on the way. One of the biomes I'd like near my base is a desert, as they feel so rare these days and they actually have a lot of resources. Not long after, I came across a jungle and decided to explore it by boat, aiming to see what other biomes were nearby. And to my surprise, in the distance, I saw a desert. I made my way over and started to explore, and soon after, the sun started to rise, marking the end of Day 2. Day 3. I started the day by venturing into the desert to explore my surroundings. I found a few spots that could make good base locations, but I kept on moving as I'm looking for the perfect spot. Not long after, I came across a village. I made my way in, looted a chest for some bread and wheat, and placed down a crafting table to make an iron hoe to gather wheat blocks. After collecting enough, I continued on my journey, coming across a ruined portal shortly after. I didn't feel like digging for the chest, so I grabbed the gold block and moved on. The desert definitely had a few spots that would make for a good base location, but I'd like more of a range of biomes where I settle. So, I headed up a mountain to scout the area before deciding to sleep through the night, bringing Day 3 to a close. Day 4. I began the day by breaking my bed and jumping down into the water. I continued my journey, still on the lookout for the perfect base location. I climbed up a mountain to scout out the surrounding area before moving on and travelling back towards the jungle by boat. Along the way, I spotted a pillager outpost, but decided to leave it for now just to be on the safe side. I made my way over to a nearby village, looted the weaponsmith for some iron and a saddle, and continued towards the jungle. Once I was there, I took out a few cows for food and leather and continued towards the shore, as I wanted to check out what was on the other side of this ocean. I started to see land shortly after, but wanted to sleep through the night first, so I placed down a bed underwater. Day 5, Part 1. I began the day by swimming up to my boat and setting off to explore the other side of the ocean. I spotted something strange near the coast, and I couldn't tell if it was just odd terrain generation. Upon closer inspection, it was my first ever ruin. I checked around the area and looted some chests, with the most noticeable find being a treasure map. I marked down the coordinates to return another day and continued on my travels, heading deeper into the desert. Soon after, I spotted a desert temple in the distance. After making my way inside, I dug down to the loot, took the TNT, and started to check the chests. The loot was pretty disappointing, with the most valuable items being a golden apple and some iron horse armor. I made my way out of the temple and wanted to scout my surroundings, so I headed towards the tallest mountain I'd seen so far. Part 2. I continued the day by making my way over to the massive mountain I wanted to climb. The sun was starting to set just as I was heading up, and I got to the base of the mountain before I realised there was still a long way to go. I took out a zombie before starting my ascent, using a water bucket to climb, as it gives me a chance to catch myself if I end up falling. As I got closer to the top, I started to worry that this might have been a bad idea. One wrong step could end it all. Still, I managed to safely make my way to the summit, where I was greeted by an army of mobs. I quickly searched for a safe spot to place down some water, however I got hit by an arrow and barely caught myself on the edge of a block. I placed down some water before descending, narrowly escaping an early death. I built a platform on the side of the mountain, dug into the stone, and placed down a bed so I could sleep through the night. Day 6. I started the day by heading back up to the top of the mountain. Whilst most of the mobs had been taken out by daylight, there were still quite a few husks and creepers lurking the area. I dealt with most of them by letting the creepers explode and proceeded to scout out the surrounding area. By this point in the series, you're probably wondering why I haven't settled in one of the many promising spots I've come across so far. Honestly, none of them really appealed to me. I'm looking for somewhere with a better variety of biomes, and trust me, it won't be long now. I ventured into the uncharted parts of the desert, admiring the landscapes as I made my way towards whatever biomes lie beyond. The sun started to set shortly after, and I decided to sleep through the night, bringing day 6 to a close. Day 7. I started the day by venturing through the desert, eventually reaching a small jungle. I decided to continue travelling by boat, but realised that I should probably start heading in a different direction. I left the decision up to my viewers, and the majority chose north, so I headed north. Along the way, I spotted a desert village next to a mangrove swamp and headed over, where I learnt that you can't put camels in boats. I didn't need much else from the village, so I continued north through the mangrove swamp, eventually reaching another ocean. Soon after, the sun started to set, so I made my way over to land where I spotted another desert village in the distance. I made my way over to sleep through the night, and I had the feeling that the perfect base location is just around the corner. Day 8. I started the day by making my way over to a plains biome. As I travelled through the area, I knew that a good base spot was imminent. I started travelling through the water, and after crossing a small pond, I stumbled across a promising spot. I started heading over to one of the trees overlooking the area, and even before I reached the top, I knew this was it. Once I was up there, it was clear. I'd found the perfect spot. Surrounded by a variety of biomes, some insane terrain, nearby villages, and even an outpost in the distance. This is it. This is the spot for Season 3. I made my way back down, and soon after, it started to get dark, so I headed across the river and placed down a bed to sleep through the night. What a day. Day 9. I started the day by heading over to an island in the middle of the lake. For the time being, this is where I'm going to set up, so I placed down some basic workstations and started to organise. I sorted out my inventory, grew some carrots, added some gold, and lit up the area. Now that I finally found a base location, the next goal was to upgrade all my gear, as I didn't want another surprise death. So, I started preparing for a mining trip. I headed over the river and gathered some wood, before returning and crafting myself some spare tools and weapons. I wanted to stock up on food too, so I took some of the hay I had gathered on my travels and made myself some bread. By the time I was ready, night had fallen, so I took one last look at the surrounding area before sleeping through the night. Day 10. I started the day by digging a tunnel to use as a mine. I gathered a couple veins of coal on my way down, but it wasn't long before I hit a problem. I broke into the river surrounding my base. Rather than changing direction, I built a staircase and blocked off the water before continuing down. I found some iron and gold on the way, and soon after, I started hearing zombies in the distance. I dug towards the sound and broke through to a cave. Before heading in, I set up some furnaces to smelt the iron I had gathered, took out the zombie guarding the entrance, and made my way inside. Thanks to the channel members, Puntato, Renz, No, and Chewy. And thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed, drop a like and subscribe.